number one, the standard that they set for themselves in that day, I feel like it's going to be extremely hard pressed to try and match that energy with everyone else now stepping up as well. But that consistency has given them a current 5th place finish, and they are pretty close to center right alongside Genesis Dogma, who we know they would love to get a little bit of revenge on. Genesis Dogma was nearly single-handedly the reason they couldn't make that rotation, and now we shift up just a little bit more north. So like you said, those teams that were hoping and praying to the zone blessed gods that they have that little bit of a northern approach as well into this next phase, they will be gifted that.
Yeah, that's a really good circle. I actually like this shift just so, because if it shifts down, I feel like we'll just head into so much chaos of teams just pretty much losing the fact that they have to go uphill, right, into those such difficult positions to breach. Now that it have shifted north, it gives a chance for the teams on the high ground to work their way in with a decent enough advantage, and it gives the teams on the north a chance to just, you know, sit there and not have to suicide their way uphill. So in a way, everything has become 50-50. And we'll probably see that being echoed by the amount of teams, amount of players that's going to remain alive as well with this circle shift. This is going to start gearing up for a very exciting, chaotic end zone. 4 a.m., of course, just getting blessed once again here. But 4 a.m., they really need to take these blessings and fully execute on it if they want to steal away first place from Geek Fam.
We saw a little bit of that Rejects action earlier on. They did send Reggie in to scout out what Train to Kill were doing, and that was when Train to Kill was still together. Now, Train to Kill have actually taken a 2-2 split, and the entirety of Rejects have regrouped on that 2 of Train to Kill that Reggie was scoping out earlier on. So maybe they're planning something. They would love to have a little bit of compound action in the center. Lamborghini would have loved to hit that shot, but instead will be not pleasantly surprised, not at all pleasantly surprised with a lot of damage to deal with. Yeah. But they're holding on. I mean, they're coming on in. Xavier, we know they're fighting for that position in the survival stage.
I believe that was Mika that fired back the accuracy. That was a double headshot. That helmet, that was not just one headshot. That was a double headshot with a Scar L that Mika fired back on. Mika, I believe he's still the top elimination leader for the entirety of this this tournament. Mika, such a strong force to be reckoned with. And we can see a glimpse right there. Like, why? Why does he have the most eliminations? Well, he just hits the shots. Double headshot from distance. And Yuhai as well, nailing the player of Xavier. Xavier, this team, this is the team closest to the cutoff for survival stage, and they are not really finding any luck. They lose a player, a flush. At this point, when they have control of this, like, west and the zone's about to pop out, that's a big blunder right there.
Again, you want to just give the space where necessary. You do not want to give anything away for free at this point in time, and especially getting your team thinned out at this point of the game when you still have to make such a heavy rotation in. They're on the outskirts. Yeah, they're one of the teams that took that gamble for Chumacera, and now they need to potentially run down a mountain. We'll have to wait and see with that next zone shift. Yep, it does center up, so they do need to rotate down, and at this point in time, giving away your position is just going to bite you. At the very least, Lamborghini's just on the edge of zone, so they have some information to work with. But for Angry Men, the likes of everyone on the outskirts, they're going to be keeping an eye out for the stragglers.
Rejects playing the same exact position as they did yesterday in the same exact zone. It worked decently well enough for the Rejects. The position that they had earlier was in the new circle, but I like this. Rejects is very heads up. They're a team that's not scared to make the rotation, even if they get the zone, but it's on the very edge, right? They're going to make that gamble play. They're going to make that rotation. It is similar to the first game, right? They had a strong position in school. It was in the edge of zone, and they take that gamble. They go more center in a position that they pretty much,
they were forced.
Yeah, they pretty much know is open. There's no teams that would be playing that position in the previous zone. Very small chance. And the Rejects, they don't have clear sightlines of that, but they have a good idea of if anybody's going to be there, it could be us if we go now. And they're now finding themselves in a very similar position as game number 1. They put themselves in a center position that's not very strong, but they'll manage to keep a majority of their players up.
It looks like they were actually forced here by Furious Gaming, who moved on in. Duello was knocked on out. the confirmation came through. It wasn't Furious Gaming that picked it up, but it looks like there was another team that was applying that pressure, and that's why Duello was left on behind. So they had to make that decision right off of the cuff, which might be why they're heading into a very, familiar spot. They know the zone, they know that position. This time, at least, IHC isn't behind them. It is Game Lords, however, that might be able to wrap around them. And, you're talking about rotations and a little bit of that chaos. Look at this Besiktas. They are split up on the outskirts of zone, all players on their own vehicle making a rotation in. And unfortunately, that 2-2 split has now been reduced to a 2-1 split.
Oh, Besiktas not managing to find an entryway in. I feel like this late in the game, when you see this many players remaining alive, you gotta rotate as a group and just take the fight. Like, find some sort of position to spearhead your way in. You're not gonna be able to sneak into this one. Not this late in the game with this many players alive. Rejects will keep 3 up at that dip. Xavier just getting desperate now for any sort of position. The Xaviers, they're gonna pull a similar move, and yep, a little bit too late on that one. Rejects with the heads-up play. This position's already taken. And Rejects will pick up some eliminations for themselves too. 2 eliminations. Still firing back. They're going to have to keep their heads down a bit longer here. Game Lords with the interesting split, by the way. That teal-blue color, a 1-1, a 1-2-1 split? Game Lords.
I think it is.
Yeah. That's...
no, it's a 1-1-1.
Oh, they're down to 3. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay. Spreading them out, spreading the players out a little bit, maybe maximizing potential circle blessings. Next circle is about to shift as well.
You see that other lovely little bit of a blue color? Yeah, that's Besiktas making a rotation right in between, pretty much trained to kill 4 angry men. Game Lords even had an opportunity to chime on in, so yeah, they will be reduced down to 1. Only Zessi now still alive in a very tough rotation they had to make. At least with that zone, they don't have to think about another one just for the time being. However, now all of the teams needing to move on in. 4 angry men will be one of the teams on the pressure block alongside FaZe. Look at the compounds that they hold and look at the angles that they actually have available to themselves, with all of these other teams now having to rotate in closer to center.
Everyone's going to be starting to get crunched in, more so from the western side. Geek Fam losing the zone, Falcons losing the zone, GK, GD, Genesis Dogma, Gids, and Nongsham all on the western side losing the circle. And all of the teams I just mentioned are pretty much 4-man teams, so we're going to see a lot of strong powerhouses as far as numbers are concerned start crushing in on the western side. Nongsham Red Sports. Or Nongsham Red Force, sorry. One of them getting knocked, and Genesis Dogma Gids. Is that going to be the opening for them to get aggressive? Here comes Geek Fam coming in aggressive on the western half. Victor, last one up, at least for this position, because we mentioned earlier they are playing split. Can Victor find a knock and a finish? Yuhai might be the unlucky player to run into Victor. Or maybe they won't even clear it out. Genesis Dogma going really hard straight into the center, almost onto 4 AM. Genesis Dogma gets a complete different team, playing way more aggressive, no longer scared to make these plays, and they'll push out 4 AM. They'll be able to secure that compound for themselves for now.
Ooh, Rejects just chiming in at the last possible second to find a knock onto 4 angry men. However, no opportunity to actually get that confirmation, but they're just so cheeky in that last little opportunity. They are keeping an eye out for these opportunities. Now, Geek Fam, GK Esports, hello. Down to a few bits of pieces here as those damage numbers are going to be moving on in Geek Fam. They are also helping to take out the likes of Game Lords. So remember, we've got Geek Fam over with Victor. We've got Game Lords now feeling at the brunt of the action onto one of the other solos. Victor going to be going down. There's no opportunity for the res because of how split they were. And it looks like only Akashi, for now, is left alone.
Victor actually came up huge. He got 2 knocks there. But yeah, being the solo and Geek Fam with 4 instantly eyes right back onto where the second Victor fire and they take down Victor. So Geek Fam will be able to reset up to a 4-man team when they were almost just down to 2.
GK Esports also, they had a little bit of a glimmer of hope here into the next zone, but just the shots that are raining on in. Nongsham Red Force picking up 2, feeling good as well. 4 angry men Yeah, towards the center, still holding onto the compounds. Genesis Dogma actually haven't aggressed further than the initial take of that compound. They've just taken up some real estate within zone. They've given themselves a great amount of cover. Ooh, but they need to still be careful. Rejects are in the vicinity, and Rejects have been taking a shot at 4 Angry Men and Genesis.
Rejects right now looking to just soften this compound up, because more than likely they're going to have to make a push. They have vehicles. And if there's any compound that they would have to push into, I mean, all rotations out of that this point are difficult. They're going to rather want the circle than not. But I'd imagine if they're going to make a gamble play, a gamble push onto anything, it would be onto Genesis Dogma Gets. They saw that team roll up. They know there's a chance. And, oh, just as I say that, they're making that push, yeah. They're going for it. That's the most they could do at this point. They're actually going for the shack across the ways, and getting taken down by Geek Fam. Tough position for the Rejects to really get anything done. Game Lords will stay alive with Akashi, that solo player in that shack.
The problem is, I was saying Akashi is left alone for the time being because, you know, they were alone. There was no opportunity really for anyone to get a shot into them. And even a lack of information meant Akashi was safe. But now with that push from Rejects, they saw what happened. They know there's something lurking in that little compound there, that little shelter. So that is going to give out Akashi's position. Geek Fam moving on in now from the southwestern portion, just behind Rejects. A lot of danger now as Rejects are reduced down to only 1. They've tried their play on out. The rotation has to be here. Geek Fam going to have to do the same for Angry Men now. Have an opportunity onto 5 buggies to try and get some eliminations.
Yeah, they take the reject position, but I think they're going to soon figure out, like, hey, this isn't really fully in zone either. They still have 4. They can make a crash somewhere. They could get an opening. Oh, 2 of their players get knocked. That's going to slow everything down. Now, the blue zone's closing in, but it's just slow enough for them to maybe get these revives and then make their next play. It's going to be really sloppy, though, because a lot of time is being wasted. Furious Gaming in the elimination feed, getting some work done in here. Those are mostly long-range knocks. Tem Entertainment, they're not in zone. They're going to have to make a play. I think that might be the next team to really show up huge here. Same with IHC and Falcon. This new zone shift has actually forced the teams on North and South to make some plays. And here is Tem Entertainment coming in. They are being cut down, though. The Fortress of Train to Kill a little bit too strong. And that is Tem Entertainment eliminated.
Loving that they had to make that rotation. We saw them doing that 2-2 split with Rejects earlier on. They secured this compound, and now with that regroup, they are holding strong. Nongshim Red Force, though, here we go. Genesis Dogma Gets have not had a chance. First Rejects, now Nongshim Red Force moving on in for that location, for that opportunity. They will be reduced down to 2, holding the line. The spray comes through. It's good. It finds 1. It gives them that opportunity, a little bit of the room to breathe. They need to go for this res. Only 1 HP separating them, and the med kit pops on off just in time to get knocked. Genesis will hold on. Nongshim Red Force have 1 more player, but that player doesn't really want to jump into this just yet.
Yeah, and the Geek Fam, in the midst of all that chaos, has pushed right onto 4 a.m. A very successful push. They managed to breach on in and not lose a single player. 1 player was knocked, but they get the revive. Now, 4 a.m. sandwiched between 3 different teams. We have Nongshim Red, which is still alive, Genesis Dogma, which hasn't been fully finished out with, and the scary 4-man team of Geek Fam with 6 eliminations on the north side of things. Train to Kill now getting very aggressive, taking the fight to IHC, taking IHC out. There's still the Falcon team on the north end, and FaZe... Well, FaZe get the zone with his new... Or do they get the zone? Maybe just the very edge of zone. But things are getting more and more crunched in. Furious Gaming from the southeast, they're going to have to make a play. They have 4 up. This is the next big team to watch out for.
FaZe didn't get the zone. Very few people actually got that zone. Falcons, they've been holding on strong. They picked up those 4 eliminations. FaZe now needing to move on in. As we said, they have to let go of those compounds. It's no longer a good option for them. And now they're left in the open here right alongside Falcons, who are reigning on high with that engagement against Train to Kill and IHC. This is a good opportunity. Yusuf going to be spotting out at least 1 member. A few bits of damage is going to be sent on through. But Ventores could be the determining factor here. From the back line, getting a good knock, a good flanking opportunity. They can back up their teammates.
Tony K, no nades, unfortunately for him. That could have been the one to open up this fight. He does have smokes, though, so he's smoking out the sightlines of the Falcon players. This is a dance back and forth. Falcon with the defensive advantage, a lot of different ridge lines to work with. That means multiple angles for FaZe to worry about as far as heads peeking out and getting shot at. FaZe trying to find some sort of opening here. Utils are coming out. And here comes a push by Furious Gaming. They're the other 4-man team that needs to make a push, and they push right into 4AM, getting a run over. This is massive. This could be huge for Geek Fam to third party. Actually, 4AM getting cut down, it looks like. Okay, Furious Gaming gets taken out, but 4AM have 2 players knocked. That should be Geek Fam's cue to third party and push in. Are they doing so? FaZe, on the other hand, on the north side, trying to make a play happen. They push up. 2 of FaZe are knocked, I believe. 2 of Falcon are also down. Actually, it all comes down to Lycan here. Can he get the clutch? (1v2) UMP down to the last few shots, and Falcon will mount a successful defense on the north end and get the full reset. 4AM, meanwhile, they got a full reset themselves. Geek Fam did not decide to push in the midst of all that chaos.
Geek Fam, they were gifted that potential for a reset yesterday. Now they've done exactly that. They've gifted 4 Angry Men that reset, not jumping into that opportunity. That might be a mistake that's going to cost them later on. We said Ventorius might have been the determining factor here for FaZe, and unfortunately just not finding that connection. FaZe goes out, but Train to Kill, I mean, they are neighbors to all of this chaos. They know exactly what's happening. They've been keeping an eye out on Falcons, and now they have a present in the form of a couple of grenades that will be sent on through. 2 down. Up here to Demar, trying to close that line. Never alone, a little bit more towards the back end line. But Train to Kill, moving in for the kill. They're not going to be finding the hit. Falcons down to only 1 as Sandesh is right around the corner.
Oh, 4AM though!
There to back them up. No way!
No way 4AM sniffs out this third-party opportunity under the pressure of Geek and might actually bite them in the butt because Snipes gets a knock onto one of the 4AM players. Train to Kill with a really good opening double knock and a play to go aggressive. Hopefully it rewards them, and it does. Rig gets the finish on it. That was a 2v4. 4AM. Yeah, they try to make a play. I think they want to swing north and play from the north down, but that was a costly mistake. Most of the players getting caught out on rotation. 4AM cut down to just a solo. Geek Fam playing this low and slow will be rewarded, not third-partying 4AM later, leaving 4AM to make the mistake. They get a knock back here, but Svan is the last one up. However, I think 4AM has the edge of zone and Geek doesn't. And there's a chance that Geek Fam, if they have to leave that compound in the next circle, Train to Kill will be able to help out Savan here.
Can't forget about Akashi. There it is. Rig going to be actually spotting them out. Akashi trying to move on just a little bit too soon, exposing their position. Those smokes will be popped. Everyone knows what's happening on that front of things. Rig just applying the pressure, but no! Damn Rude with the nade of a lifetime, finding that connection, and now looking to close out this gap between themselves and Savan. Mika going to be pushing on up. Mika, absolutely emphatic player to try and take a 1v1 up against, and they do have the backup of their team. Will Savan be able to get the spray down? They're going to Rig around, and Rig will move on in for the third party.
Yeah, there we go. There's that help that 4AM wanted. Unfortunately, the help was onto the backside of bullets that he soaked in from Train to Kill. Now Train to Kill in a 2v3 situation. They have the advantage of the high ground. They need to get Snipes down. That's an opening that they need to take, and they do. Now they bring it back down to a 2v2. Circle's going to close up on Train to Kill as well. Geek Fam's going to have to push out. Yuhai or Darude, or Damn Rude, needs to get a sick knock while running in the open. It is very easily doable. They just need to pre-aim on the right correct peak. Oh, nades coming in from Train to Kill, also softening Geek Fam up just a little bit. The blue zone is slowly closing in, and if any team could pull this off, it would be Geek Fam. Here comes the shimmies left and right, pre-fires back and forth. Train to Kill, massive damage onto them, but they get a knock. Sandesh with the double peek from his teammate, and that's Train to Kill with a great celebratory victory. Train to Kill, they were a team that was, I would say, relatively safe in the survival stage bubble, but with that win at this point in the game, with 4 more games left to go, they could be looking at a top 3 finish still. if they start cleaning things up even tighter.
Coming into this game, they were sitting in 8th position with 154 points. But man, what an opportunity. Rig was just so quick with those third-party opportunities. And what's even greater for Rig and the side of Train to Kill in that final engagement, not only did they have a better zone, they had a better angle on towards, GeekFam making that rotation line in, but GeekFam, lack of utilities, man. They were taking that engagement before Angry Men. They were trying to smoke them on up. They were trying to take on the likes of Game Lords. They were taking on so many engagement back to back to back that they did not have the utilities to give themselves an edge into that final moment. No opportunity for smokes, no opportunity for nades. They had nothing.
Yeah, nothing indeed. Train to Kill. What a beautiful victory for them. This is what I want to see. Teams need to play more aggressive. It was a 2v4. They capitalized off the double knock, and that secured them the north side, which ultimately secured them a massive chicken dinner.
Trained to Kill gets the chicken dinner in the first Miramar match today. 28 total points there, not to mention, the two squads at the top still fighting it out towards the end. They're going to pull in second and third place. Oh man, the plot is starting to really thicken here, Seven.
Those 13 eliminations are going to be massive because Reject only got 3 points. And then on top of that, Glitter, GeekFam, and 4 Angry Men, these teams want to keep their placement here. First place and second place, if they're going to continue like this, those placements are going to be pretty much secure in the next couple games.
And this is literally what we said was going to happen because of how close the points were for our entire middle of the pack. Now, the top performers here, we get a little bit of everything. Okay, we've got Rig up here with the 9 elims at almost 1k damage. Some really solid efficiency and conversion there with that for almost 50% of the team's contribution. And then moving down the list, though, we've got a little bit more of the people that we recognize. Once again, Genesis Dogma up here, and then 2 from GeekFam. Now, has not turned off their aggression yet, and they're continuing to create a cushion for themselves. But if anybody in the middle does well, like T2K just did, they are shooting up the leaderboard. Someone should be worried.
So many teams are worried, and one team that is especially worried, it's got to be GK. They busted out a donut in that last match, so they got to be feeling devastated right now. But we got a lot to talk about, guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break. And we're back, everybody. Oh, goodness. The plot is really starting to thicken out here. Things are getting intense. There's only 4 more matches left to go for these teams to be able to let their dreams come true. Of course, none of this would be possible without the official smartphone here for PMGC. Sony, with their Xperia 1.4 and Xperia Stream, created in collaboration with professional esports players. You guys can play PUBG Mobile in 90 Hz with Xperia Stream's multiple ports, and total cooling system for intensive gaming and streaming. Also gotta go show some love to the official platinum sponsor here for this. This is gonna be Prime Gaming. That's right, guys. They got some exclusive benefits you guys can check out. Also, you guys can get some exclusive in-game PUBG Mobile content, so go check out Prime Gaming today. Alrighty, now it's about that time. Okay, where did these teams shake up on the leaderboards as we take a look at the first page? I know you guys have goosebumps here. It's gonna be Train to Kill passing up Rejects by just 1 point.
We talked about it, Glitter. It can come down to 1 point, and T2K is currently showing it, being able to have 182 points in Reject. I'll talk about them a little bit later, but I'm just not happy with the way they were able to play on that Miramar map. They are currently in 4th place. You do see IHC going down there. Luckily for T2K and Reject, Glitter, they're starting to create a bit of a cushion there between 5th and 8th. They gotta wake up.
I mean, you say that, and then for all we know, someone's going to show up at Sandhawk and then completely knock that out. But this is another big jump. I'm not even looking at 9, 10, and 11 right now. Yes, Game Lord jumps up a little bit. I'm looking at 12 and 13 because Genesis Dogma Gids has now jumped above D Xavier, who's been non-existent right now. This puts them 4 points behind Genesis Dogma Gids, and Vivo Keed also wildly quiet and now only 6 points ahead. That is 0 cushion. They could do that in elims, especially with Sandhawk. Jukes, this is just chaos.
Oh, it's absolute chaos. Not to mention, you know, D Xavier busting out another donut here in this last match here. So that silence is going to have to change up big time, because we're heading on over to the jungle, baby, where it is hot, it is thick, and it is intense. So, Seven, as we go into the jungle here, who are your teams to watch?
Geek Fam. First of all, they've been absolutely dominating.
Okay.
Genesis dominates because they've been averaging a 4th place finish in Sandhawk. So they might not be able to get it in elims, but they might be able to get it in placements. And then, yeah, Reject. You know what? Glitter, take it. I don't want to burn them just yet. I want to see how they do in Sandhawk.
We agree on a lot of these things right now. For me, Genesis Dogma Gids as well, but also D Xavier, because now these two have their own battle going on right outside of that 11th place bubble. I want to see which one of them does better on Sandhawk. And then, like you said, Reject, you don't want to say it. They're not. That was not great, that last performance, okay? That's not what they need to do if they want to stay top 3. They got to be at the top, and Sandhawk is now their next opportunity to prove it.
They're not playing too well.
I'm going to keep a close eye on GK FaZe Clan. They already have a heck of a point gap. They got to close it right here, right now, if they want a chance at the top 3. It's Sandhawk, everybody. Get hype. It's time to go ahead and bring it on over to our casters.
Oh man, eat my words. I was saying Train to Kill, they're safe in the survival group. Maybe with that win they could, you know, with 4 games left, make it into the top 3, but they are already in the top 3. They knock out the Rejects by 1 singular point, and we're only gonna heat things up more now, starting with this Sandhawk game that we're gonna jump into.
Man, it is heating up. Here it is. We are jumping from chaos to chaos. We said it's going to come down to the wire. Already, we're talking about a different top 3. We're talking about 3 teams that might have just secured themselves an opportunity to miss out on a very scary survival stage. A very, very threatening group of teams that are looking to take them out of this competition completely. Train to Kill, that was gorgeous. Now they are, we have to keep in mind, only 1 point up ahead of the Rejects. So there's a very close and contentious battle that they can bring forward in a map like Sandhawk, a map that, I mean, we've been talking about the chances of so many teams that are right alongside each other, finding each other on a map like Miramar. Now with Sandhawk, now with half of the space available, I mean, those chances are just looking even better.
Yeah, I don't know if the analyst desk is able to pull up this the stats or maybe make a graphic for this, and it might not even matter after this game. But between Train to Kill and Rejects, which team is more consistent? Now, obviously, point average wise, they're basically right next to each other, but point variance. Right? Do Rejects get bigger upswings and bigger downswings, or is Train to Kill more in the middle, like averaging overall a little bit better, like less variance? Because that might play into effect, like who crunches out the next four consistent enough games to stay ahead of one another. Now, that's within the confines of those two teams. There are still teams below Rejects, IHC, FaZe, GK, Tem Entertainment, that could do what Train to Kill just did and be another team that breaks into the top 3. But, oh man, there's so much going on right now. And then, of course, Geek Fam just keeps pulling ahead of the second place team of 4 Angry Men.
I mean, starting off, the first day, they brought in that aggression. Coming back on the last day, they are back to the form of old, bringing in so much aggression. And the fact is, we talked about it off camera, that they are not getting punished significantly enough to the fact that they're going to change the strategy. They are not getting forced into a different scenario. They are not getting forced into making these off-the-cuff decisions, which we saw Rejects having to do on Miramar. They had to suddenly take a much less covered position on Miramar because they were being forced out by 1 to 2 teams.
Yeah.
So Geek Fam not feeling that pressure. They get to just play their game. They're not forced into someone else's game and forced to make some very tough decisions.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, they play their game. They fight their way in. I mean, we saw Geek Fam, right? They ended up in the position that Rejects were in. Rejects were in that dip. Rejects were forced to vacate that dip. Geek Fam went into the same exact dip, but Geek Fam made it work. There's the difference there, right? Sure, the circle shifted, a little bit different in ways where Geek Fam can be on the outside of the dip, on the high ground, and then going into the dip and everything. So that does make a huge difference in overall how the game played out. But still, it doesn't change the fact that Geek Fam went aggressive and slammed the compound, whereas the Rejects, they did get knocked down to 3, which did have an impact in how they wanted to approach, their next rotation. But there's a clear difference. Geek Fam, a way more aggressive team. They're not the team with 4 or with 3 players even to try and just make it to a shack. They'll take the gamble, they'll take the risk and crash a compound, and it worked out for Geek Fam in that particular situation. This circle is a very northwestern circle, by the way, as proxy. We are going to see more than likely a northwestern island finish for this Sandhawk game, which is going to change things up a lot. It works out for the Rejects, so they will get center position at the Trifecta compound, or even taking center position on the Northwestern Island to start off this match.
It's actually interesting that you brought up the way in which Geek Fam and Rejects would approach that same crash site, compound. We saw Rejects heading into Genesis Dogma. They only sent in, I believe it was 2 out of the 3 players they had available in that last finish. They left 1 behind, and because of that, maybe there's something to go for a statement that, because they left that 1 player, because they were focusing on that safety net into the next placement, it might have hindered them from winning out that compound into Genesis Dogma. If they won that compound out from Genesis Dogma, then we could have been talking about, Rejects. We could have been talking about them moving it in. Whereas Geek Fam, they head up against 4 Angry Men with all of their players that they had available. Like if you were talking about the overall rankings, a much more difficult opponent to take on, and that's why they brought more of their numbers. But also, they do that with nearly every single engagement. They do not have a safety net. They go full in with full confidence, hoping and winning, and just that's why they haven't been punished.
Definitely so. Very two distinct play styles between these top teams, Geek Fam and Rejects. Now, you mentioned this a lot. Geek Fam simply has not been punished. There's a good, chance that in a tougher lobby with even stronger teams, Geek Fam's playstyle would drop them below the Rejects, right? Because they get into more engagements, but they run into bigger fish, which, not saying Geek Fam will lose, but Geek Fam might, be losing players instead of being able to keep all 4 up the whole entire time. And then a team that's a bit more calculated and safe, you know, over a course of 18 games like Rejects might actually end up in higher points. So this does not mean, you know, Geek Fam is outright better than the Rejects. There's a lot of different variants and factors that goes in, but the main thing I'm highlighting is the 2 different play styles and how it might be impacted depending on, you know, the level of the lobby. Now, we see Game Lord here making a huge wrapping rotation from the north with a botation. Yeah, definitely a good idea because a lot of the bridges right now being camped or occupied, or you don't even want to risk, you know, trying to take the bridge. 4 AM though, they are going to take that bridge and shoot right across. The Xavier was there doing some sort of, I don't know.
Cam?
Yeah, like we have
Lookouts?
we have 3 players of D Xavier at the bridge, but they
I didn't see damage.
Yeah.
I didn't see any shots being taken. I didn't see any aggression towards 4 Angry Men. So yes, they're there, but maybe they're just laying low for the time being. Vivo Key, they were trying to do something similar, and now they might be awarded with a bit of damage or maybe even an elimination onto Falcons. So maybe information was the play for the Xavier. Oh, goodbye.
Yep. Yeah, look at D Xavier's positioning. That is a bridge camp if I've ever seen one, but they didn't really take any shots. Geek Fam, whoa, rotating in hard from Ruins, sweeping up the northwestern edge, runs into Game Lord, the team that took the botation. Pretty sure Geek Fam was not expecting a team up here, nor did anyone expect Game Lord to rotate from Cow with a boat up to here and take this position. No amount of VOD review would have prepped Geek Fam for running into a team over there. So I would say unfortunate for Geek Fam losing a player there. 4AM also lost a player, but they did one of those calculated risk rotations, which did end up costing them 1 player. But they find themselves in a very central position. Let's hope for them. Well, I mean, they're definitely hoping that the circle shifts a little bit to the east and not uphill to the likes of Vivo Keyed and the Rejects.
That could be a very, very interesting situation these teams would have to deal with. But we'll see. Maybe it might pay off with the likes of Vivo Key. It all depends on who you're rooting for into this final day of the group stages. Ultimately, though, most of the teams will obviously be heading over into this part of island. This Camp Alpha region is going to get stuck.
Edge of being kicked out of the survival stage. Have the high ground. Will it shift back onto them? Have to push downhill. Just everywhere else, teams are, making their botations in. They're trying to swim in. We saw a team go out completely, which was Besiktas out in the water, getting spotted out with their botation by Train to Kill. Genesis Dogman Gids all the way in the blue zone on the far southwest doing a botation. The only teams not yet on this island are Train to Kill, Furious Gaming, and Tem Entertainment. So they still got to make their way in. None of the bridges are being camped, though, so they do have a open crossing if they do elect to do so.
We saw DX Xavier just up ahead of Nongshim Red Force. They've been reduced down to only 2. So it's not looking too great for them. Also wanted to see a little bit more from Besiktas, so it is a shame. But look at this. Vivo Keed will be blessed. They still have that high ground. They're not really that close to one another in terms of like a duo fight, but they have FaZe locked down. FaZe really can't make a move in the meantime. Game Lords, we talked about that rotation early on. I am loving this. They're bringing in that 2-2 split. They're picking up some great eliminations, and they're asserting dominance coming through from that northwestern side. If they can continue, this is really going to be a difficult situation for Train to Kill to hold on.
Oh, man. 4 a.m. If they just stayed put as a 3 way earlier, they'd still have this zone. And now this zone is kind of like shifting back towards where they were. See if it works out. Meanwhile, Rejects. Beautiful first initial rotation. Picking a strong position on the map. Gets them 4 eliminations, and they keep 4 up. Rejects back into the top 3 with a very strong position. They might be knocking 4 a.m. down to the 3rd place by the end of this game.
And Train to Kill, like we were talking about, the team that Rejects were chasing after, all of a sudden on the back line, Rick trying to keep it up, trying to stay alive up against the likes of Game Lords, but the numbers just aren't there to back it up. Now they've been reduced down to 2, so this is a massive opportunity, not only for Rejects to obviously close that gap, which they've already basically done, but then to give them that safety net as we move into the halfway marker of today. After this map, if they have that opportunity, that lead, and they can just stay somewhat consistent, they are looking at a secured spot into the top 3.
Yeah, all the teams looking to knock Rejects out of the top 3 are all hurt. Train to Kill down to 2, IHC down to 1, FaZe down to 3, and dropping even further below GK. I mean, GK has 4, but GK sitting at 160 to the 181 of Rejects. So this is a really good game for the Rejects, not for their own performance, but for the ill performance of all the teams below them.
Again, the timing. What is the chances that as soon as Rejects just step it on up, it is just going absolutely swimmingly for them? Game Lords, been impressed with their rotation. Not too great in terms of the split that they're currently working with because, well, we did see one get caught up. That's why. That is why they focus a split here, Zute. Geek Fam have moved on in for the kill.
Geek Fam 3v3 on top of the hill. Game Lord took one of Geek Fam down way earlier unexpectedly for the side of Geek Fam, but now they're back at it again. Nongshim Red Force, though, coming into things. They have 4 players. This could be a deadly third party for either team here. Nongshim Red. Are they going to keep... I mean, the zone's right there. That's where they need to go. And they do spot out one. One of Geek Fam does get taken down, and they're firing shots onto both teams. They're firing shots onto Game Lord and Geek Fam. Some very strong, accurate shots, actually. This is what Nongshim Red Force needs to do. They need to pick up all the eliminations they can. They're up to 4 already. They lose the zone. It's going to be a tough task for them to make it down this hill. And Geek Fam, we don't usually see them turn away from fights, but even then, they're smart enough to know when to leave. And Geek Fam is out of there, leaving Game Lords to deal with Nongshim Red Force. And it is not looking good. Nongshim Red Force comes in. 7 elimination points. They're going to need a chicken dinner and way more, though, if they want to break into the survival stage.
You know, this is the beauty of a team like Nongshim Red Force. We were talking about those teams that literally have nothing to lose. At this point in time, Nongshim Red Force, they're so far behind, but at the very least, they are crippling the likes of our top teams. They are crippling the likes of Geek Fam. They are hurting the game lords completely as they set back into the lobby. Genesis Dogma now, a team that has finally closed that gap, also feeling the brunt of the action. So this is a massive opportunity for them. I want to see more of it. Bring it in again. Look, it's a lot of points that they have to catch up. They really have a tall order in front of them. But hey, it could be just so good in the last day to make that push.
Circle has closed down more on top of the mountain. Vivo Key looking nice. All the teams on edge having to come in. This by now it's a lot of scrap fighting. No real 4-man teams are able to fight their way in. GK comes in with 4 though. On to the last member, that is Savan. Savan is trying to hide in a nook, hide in a cranny, but he's forced to make his moves. He's going to get sideswept from the other side potentially. Yeah, GK with 4 people all looking towards Savan's direction. Savan backs off, doesn't want to attract too much attention. He's going to go back into that little nook, that little cranny he's been hiding in. But one well-placed nade, and Gaith, well, he's got 3 of those, should find Savan dead. Savan popping out of the smoke, knowing he's about to get naded, tries to make it across the corner, and that is 4AM out with any... Did they get any points? No. No points whatsoever. Train to kill. Passing up rejects, but just for now, rejects still have... Four players up in a strong, dominant position. 4AM, as I was saying, they took that gamble, did not pay off, but it was a tough zone to navigate.